So these are very, very important actually. Now, what is the static actually? Static state. See, if I take any fluid, the static state of any fluid is the state or it is a position or whatever will condition of the given fluid is the condition which can be described by its properties without any effect of the velocity. Fine, that's the meaning of it. It is the condition described by the various properties of the fluid, that particular fluid, without the various properties of the fluid, without the effect of the velocity, without the effect of the velocity. That's the meaning of it. And how we can measure this actually? So these properties are measured using static probes or measuring instrument. Static measuring devices. To be very precise, we call them as probes. Just example I'll give. Say for example, we are all using a thermometer. So thermometer, I'm going to, if I put it at any given point, so what I'm going to trying to measure, I'm trying to measure the thermometer. Say for example, you might have seen in your fourth semester, we had the centrifugal, maybe the diesel engine, a Ruston diesel engine, or your centrifugal compressor, or your reciprocating compressor. So you had some kind of a pocket. So in the pocket, we are going to insert the thermometer. So there the velocity of the fluid is zero, and whatever the property I want to measure, that becomes your static property. So what I want to measure is the static temperature. So similarly, so the fluid, if I take for a conduit, maybe a circular pipe or something, so on the surface, maybe internal flow, whatever it may be, the fluid will automatically come to zero. If I try to measure any value of the pressure on the surface, so it becomes a static pressure. So whatever the measurement I do without the effect of the velocity, so these properties are called as your static properties. Now, when I speak of stagnation, actually, what I'm trying to do, stagnation, or we call it as total properties. So I have a fluid which is moving, and what I want to do actually, I want to convert. See, you have, whenever the fluid is moving, you have a static property, that is some energy without any kinetic energy property, without any kinetic energy. That means without velocity. And I have a dynamic part, so which is mainly because of the movement of the fluid. So what I'm trying to do actually, so when I want to measure it actually. So to measure it, what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring the dynamic part. So I'm going to isentropically or without any energy loss. So brought the fluid to rest. I'm going to bring the dynamic part to static condition. Then I'm going to measure what is its effect. So that energy we call as the your stagnation energy. Okay. So when I speak of stagnation, so when I speak of any, so if I take if a fluid, if I take a when the fluid is moving, when the fluid is moving, it has two quantities. It has two quantities. So A, it is the static part, fine, where no kinetic energy. And I do have the dynamic part where I do have the kinetic energy part. Okay. So the B is the dynamic part where kinetic energy is there. Okay. Now, what is the stagnation state? Okay. Stagnation state of any fluid. So stagnation state of any moving fluid. Any moving fluid stream, we call it as fluid stream or the velocity field or whatever it may be. So it is a condition, is the, so any moving fluid is the condition, attained by that fluid, okay, attained by that fluid when it is suddenly brought to rest. That means it's in a fraction of a second. When it is instantly brought to rest without any loss of energy, that is isentropically, we call it as isentropically, or without any heat loss. Any heat loss. This is a condition. So without any heat loss means there is no work done also, whatever it may be. So during this process, what will happen? So during this process, the kinetic energy gets converted to internal energy. Gets converted to internal energy. And this internal energy we are trying to measure. This internal energy we are trying to measure. Say for example, I am trying to, say for example, I do have a pitot tube. I am going to put it in a moving stream. So it will have two probes actually. One inside one will be measuring your static one, and outside one will be going to measure the. I am going to take into consideration. So velocity is brought into, maybe the dynamic quantity, kinetic energy is brought into rest. So I will have there will be a corresponding rise in the fluid mainly because of the static, and there will be corresponding rise with respect to dynamic quantity also. So if I try to put the probe at the center of the pipe where the velocity is at the maximum, if I try to put the probe at the surface, I am going to measure the static one. So if I try to put the velocity, maybe the probe at the center where the maximum, if you look at the velocity profile, it will be maximum, it will be parabolic profile. So I'll be having the maximum velocity at the center. So where I'll be having the maximum value of the stagnation quantity would be the center of the pipe. Maybe along from the center of the pipe to the maybe your surface, I could see the variation in my velocity. Fine. So now, if you want to measure at any given point, I want to measure some of the values. Say if I want to measure stagnation temperature. So the stagnation temperature means I do have the static quantity plus your dynamic quantity. So this derivations should have been done in your thermodynamics actually. That's why it's a prerequisite. So if I want to measure the enthalpy, it is H plus V square by 2, and if I want to measure the stagnation pressure, it is static pressure plus rho V square by so. So what it is actually stagnation values. If you look at it, the stagnation values. So if you look at the stagnation values, I do have a static value or term. So static term plus a dynamic term. So this is your static, this is your dynamic, all the things. So whether it's a stagnation temperature, it's a stagnation enthalpy, or stagnation pressure, whatever it may be, this is how you are going to measure it. So this should have done in your fluid mechanics course. Maybe you might have calculated the stagnation pressure, all those things. Okay. So this is little bit of basics should be enough for you. What we'll do is actually we'll move towards thermodynamic analysis. So thermodynamic analysis of your turbo machine. That is, what we'll take, we'll go to a compression process or the expansion process. Thermodynamic analysis of expansion and compression process. Now, when I take either of these processes, so if I take the process which can be either compression or expansion, what is common here actually? So if I take this kind of thing, I do have an ideal one and the actual one. So it can be an ideal expansion or ideal compression, or it can be an ideal compression or actual compression. So when I try to take the ratio of actual to ideal, I will end up with what is called as efficiencies. So when I try to take the ratio of actual to ideal, so I end up with what is called as efficiencies. Now, when I try to go by this kind of actual to ideal, okay, the process gets affected. Okay, so when I try to take the ratios of it, actual to ideal. So if I try to find efficiencies from different thermodynamics perspective, so if I try to look into efficiencies from different thermodynamics perspective, so perspective. So what I'm going to get actually, I'll be getting something called as efficiency. So if it's an isothermal, so if I take isothermal efficiency, so I do have the isothermal work or ideal. So ideal work to actual work if I go for a compression. Why it is? So if I try to put it on a TS diagram, on a temperature entropy diagram, so what will happen? Let me show that also. Okay. This is one TS diagram. So another TS diagram. Fine. This is TS. TS. So one I can go for. This is how they are all diagonally diverging. These are all your pressure lines. Okay. Now if I try to compress, what will happen? So I have a point from 1. So this is my isentropic compression. So I'm moving from 1 to maybe some 2. So now if I want to go for an expansion, isentropical or ideal, it will be from this point to this point. So this will be from 1 to 2. Ideal. So let me call that as 2i or 2 dash or whatever it may be. Because it's ideal. So 2 to 1 to 2 dash ideal. Now what will be the actual one? So actual one looks something like this. The actual one looks something like this where, so this is how the actual one. So what will happen in case of an expansion process? My actual will go something like this. So this will be my actual compression. This is my actual expansion. So what is happening here? So at any given point, if I try to draw a line, so this is my T1, this is my T2 dash. So this my T2. So similarly, this is my T1. This is my T2 dash. This is my T2. I am showing for a simple condition. So simple, a single stage one. Okay, if I look at it, the expansion and compression process, the actual expansion, why, what's happening? Look at this. The entropy is increasing. Here also entropy is increasing because as we have seen that as per second law of thermodynamics, entropy has to get generated. So I can't have a process where the entropy is dropping. So the entropy should be always increasing. For all actual processes, entropy will be increasing. And if it's an ideal condition, so for reversible and no heat transfer, so heat transfer condition, I do have what is called as isentropic. So if you take for a compression, the efficiency will be something like this. So ideal will be 1 to 2 dash divided by 1 to 2. So what about for the expansion? So if it is for an expansion process, so if you write the isothermal, okay, so it will be actual work to ideal work if it is for a turbine, which is mainly because of the expansion process. So because my ideal is more compared to my actual. So in the turbine, I will be doing less work instead of doing the more work. And if in case of your compression, I'll be doing more work instead of I'm supposed to do less work, but I'm doing more work. So this ratio, we call it as efficiency. So if I take the isothermal ideal work to isothermal, so your actual work, it becomes isothermal efficiency. If I replace isothermal by, so if here, so this is actually isothermal. This is isothermal ideal work. This is also isothermal ideal here, no? Yeah, here it ideal. Yeah, here. If this is isothermal ideal work. What is it actually? Isothermal ideal work. If you studied in your fluid, maybe thermodynamics course, actually, there is something called as quasi-static. That means I'm going to execute this process so slowly that infinitesimal small temperature difference. That means I should ensure that the temperature of that particular process should remain constant. That means I need large source of energy, that is a reservoir, to execute this particular process. So practically it's very difficult to execute isothermal process. So what people have started is actually, so when I can't execute isothermal process, what is the ideal one which I can, nearest one which I can try actually? So that is your isothermal process. So if I speak of isentropic, when I can't do with respect to your isothermal process, here I can get isentropic, that is ideal work, to your actual work for the compression process. Fine. So similarly, it is actual work to isentropic work for the expansion process. This is about your isentropic. Even though we also know that isentropic is also a little bit difficult because maintaining the entropy being constant is once again, or entropy are ensuring that there is no heat loss and all is very difficult. So isentropic and isothermal is, they are all idealistic conditions, processes. So now, what is the practical thing? What is the practical efficiencies? That is actually, that is your polytropic. So polytropic efficiency is one which depends on your actual work and how it is far away, maybe deviated from your isentropic your work actually. That we will look into that actually. So as we proceed further, we will see The polytropic efficiency is the actual efficiency any turbo machine will work, whether it's a compressor or a turbine. Fine. So maybe if it is TS and HS diagrams. So look at this TS and HS diagrams, what I'm showing. To the left hand side, I have the a simple static one, where I'm trying to have the compression process from 1 to 2 dash and 1 to 2. Already I have shown. If I try to add the kinetic part of it, that is your dynamic part of it, that is V1 score, that is if there is a kinetic energy part at the inlet and if there is a kinetic energy at the exit. So what is the meaning of it? Let me be very practical with you. So most of us we know that. So if you have a cycle pump, so the air is drawn from the atmosphere. Okay, air is drawn from the atmosphere with what velocity? Maybe nearly negligible. But when it is going out, actually, the fluid which is coming out will come out with some velocity. That means it has a little bit of kinetic energy component in it. Similarly, if I take, for example, I have a fan, I have a compressor, or I have a blower, whatever it may be. Ideally speaking, so the fluid which is coming out of the impeller will have certain amount of kinetic energy. So if I try to put a casing to it or conduit to it and try to convert that kinetic energy to static energy and try to store the fluid in a tank, okay, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to recover that kinetic energy completely. Are you getting? So if the fluid at the exit of or at the exit of your turbo machine, if there is no kinetic energy component, I have only static component. If there is if there is, if the fluid is going out with some velocity component or kinetic dynamic part actually, then I can tell that there is a little bit of total. That means it has little bit of stagnation quantity going out. So if I have a multiple stages axial flow compressor, first stage, second stage, third stage. So first stage, the fluid will enter at some very low velocity. So second stage, fluid will exit at some velocity. It enters at some velocity with respect to the second stage. Then it goes to the second stage exit with some velocity, with higher velocity. Then it enters at some velocity to the third stage. Then at the exit of your third stage, it may go out or it may go to a tank or it may go to a combustion chamber, whatever it may be. So now, if I try to find efficiencies for all those things, whenever I have kinetic energies at the inlet and exit, we will go with what is called as stagnation to stagnation or total to total efficiencies. So at the inlet, if I have velocity is negligible, I will go with static. Okay, so you might have be seen that total to static, static to static, total to total, total to static. So these efficiencies are there depending upon the availability of kinetic energy at the inlet or at the exit. To understand that, actually, we need to look into this HS diagram or TS diagrams. Okay, so if I try to 2 or 2 dash 0 not, say 0 2 not 1 or not 2 not 3 is used to did or define your stagnation quantities or stagnation points. If I simply put 1 2 and all, it clearly indicates that it is a static quantities. So stagnation quantities and stagnation quantities are clearly represented on your HS diagram or TS diagram, and this will give a lot of understanding or input, fine, to see that what is the kinetic energy available there, whether the kinetic energy is really useful, whether I'm able to convert that kinetic energy to some other form. All those things we have to look into it. Is that clear? Fine. This is about your HS diagram or whatever it may be. Now, the same thing can be seen for your isentropic processes also. Fine. What is it actually? Look at this. I have the isentropic compression process. So I have the HS diagram and TS diagram. The fluid is entering at 1 and actual one it is going on the pink line 1 to 2 and your ideal one is from 1 to 2 dash. So similarly, I have to the right hand side I have with respect to your stagnation one. So 1 is the entry point 0 2 if there is some velocity which is going out, so it becomes stagnation, or it is 2 if it is only static. Okay. Now, if the fluid is only going static to static, that is, the fluid at the exit doesn't have any kinetic energy component. It's simply just like one example is I have a fluid centrifugal pump which is lifting the water from your sump and it is delivery. So from your sump and delivering the water to a tank over a tank. Simply the pipe is immersed, the pipe is submerged in your tank actually, then I can't see that velocity with which it's going out. So what's happening? The velocity at exit is just simply getting converted to corresponding head. But if I try to see that the water is flowing above into the tank, that means from the top of maybe some opening or something, it is falling into the tank. I could see that there is some velocity over there. That's how you can differentiate. So in that case, it will be following the pink line. So this line is what it's going to follow if there is a velocity at the exit. If there is a velocity at the inlet, it will follow. So maybe a velocity, see, it enters very at a low velocity of 0.1 or 0.2 meter square into the impeller of a given turbo machine, and it exiting at 2 meters per second or 3 meters per second, whatever it may be, then it will try to follow the pink line. Okay. Now, what is this actually? Isentropic compression and actual compression. Isentropic compression for a stagnation quantities and actual compression for a stagnation quantities. So you have to be very, very careful what I am trying to look into that. If I try to write in terms of enthalpies, delta H, what is called as change in enthalpy, and change in enthalpy is a clear indication of work done. If I am doing it ideally, it is called isentropic work. If I do it on an actual one, on an ideal condition, on an actual condition, it is called as actual work. Fine. Now, your actual work, it is actually, if I try to put it over here, it is actually 0, 1 to 0, 2. That is H naught to higher enthalpy minus initial enthalpy, lower enthalpy. Total to static. What is it actually? Then static to static, total to total, then total to static. If you look at it, if you look at this particular thing, I do have total to static means at the exit, total to static, it has some amount of kinetic energy at the inlet. With at the exit, it is static, total to static, inlet to exit, static to static, inlet is also there is no kinetic energy, and exit also there is no kinetic energy. So it is H2 dash minus H1. And if it is total to total, I do have kinetic energy at the inlet, which is H naught 1, and I do have the kinetic energy at the exit, which is isentropic, which is H naught 2 dash. If it is static to total, I don't have any kinetic energy at the inlet, but I do have some amount of kinetic energy at the exit. So it becomes H naught 2 dash minus H1. Fine. You have to be very, very careful in seeing what is this total to total, total to static, static to total, and static to static. If you're able to understand this, then all the efficiencies, what we look into that in compression and expansion process becomes easy for you. Fine. Now, if I take the ratio of actual to total to static, actual to total, if I do that actually, then I'll be getting all your efficiencies. So if I look into the efficiencies, total to total efficiencies, isentropic enthalpy change to actual enthalpy change. This is your simple formula. Efficiency, that is total to total efficiency, means isentropic enthalpy change to actual enthalpy change. So let's substitute for it. Total to total is equal to H naught 2 dash minus H naught 1 dash divided by H naught 2 minus H naught 1. So now, if you go and look back into thermodynamics, your enthalpy is a function of temperature. So H is a function of temperature. It can be either static or stagnation, whatever it may be. So you have enthalpy is a function of temperature. You have internal energy as a function of temperature. So wherever U is there, I can replace with Cv into T. Wherever H is there, I can replace with Cp into T. So what I am trying to do actually, H is equal to Cp is a constant, H is equal to Cp into T. So here I am going to put Cp into T naught 2 dash minus T naught 1 divided by Cp into T naught 2 minus T naught 1. Cp just simply considered as being a constant. I am left with the either I can write the formula in terms of enthalpies or in terms of your temperatures. So total to total efficiency means all the stagnation numbers or stagnation properties. It can be enthalpy or it can be temperature. Now, total to static efficiency. What it is? I'm going to, at the exit, look at this. At the exit, my velocity is becoming 0. So if that is the case, when the velocity, because there is no dynamic part, so I have only the static quantity. So I'm left with total to static means H2 minus H01 divided by H02 minus H01. So in the denominator, I have all your stagnation or isentropic. So total one. So total to stat. So I can write in terms of temperature or I can write in terms of enthalpy. Now static to total, look at this. So at the inlet, my velocity is 0. That means the fluid is entering the turbo machine with no velocity or nearly negligible velocity. Under this condition, my H1 will be equal to H01 because the dynamic part is missing. So if I try to take the ratio to find the total to static efficiency, it is H02 dash minus H01 divided by H02 minus H01. So higher enthalpy, okay, minus lower enthalpy, or higher temperature minus lower temperature. Now I have other condition where your V1 and V2 is 0. V1 and V2 can be 0 or V1 is equal to V2. Fluid is entering at 2 meters per second, exiting at 2 meters per second. That's one condition. Or I have both V1 is 0 and V2 is equal to 0. So both the conditions it satisfies. In that case, I am left with only static quantities. So it will be H2 minus H01 divided by your H2 minus H0. So here H02 dash minus H01 I can replace with H2 minus H1. So this becomes a formula with respect to static quantities. That's only it is static quantities. This one. I can write it as T2 minus T1 instead of T02 minus T01. And I can write H02 minus H01 as H2 minus H1 because my velocity quantity is V1 is equal to V2 or V1 is equal to 0 or V2 is equal to 0.